Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 13th annual Design for Drupal. My name is Patrick Corbett, and I am the CEO here at Redfin Solutions, and I'm also a volunteer at Design for Drupal, along with Leslie Glynn, who will go through some introductions in just a moment. For those of you who are new to Design for Drupal, this is an event devoted to design, UX, and front-end development for Drupal sites, as well as the business and processes of challenges in facing Drupal teams. We are typically an in-person event held every summer in Boston. Of course, for obvious reasons, we can't do that. Hoping maybe next year that will change. But right now we're virtual, holding monthly webinars, and we'll continue doing that for the foreseeable future. This year, we're kicking things off today with a talk from Justin Tupin, and we'll get to him in just a second. And we'll follow up with some discussions or questions at the end. So please just put your questions into the Q&A option down below on the Zoom, and we can answer those at the end. Leslie, why don't you go ahead and take care of the summary for today's event.
Sure, thank you, Patrick. I'm going to present this. Welcome everyone, as Patrick said, to Design for Drupal Boston, our 13th anniversary. I want to just make a special note. I've been watching the attendees hop in. We have people from all over the globe: Kenya, Turkey, France, Germany, Switzerland, all over the place. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We're glad that you can make it. As Patrick said, we're welcoming Justin Tupin from Atten Design Group today. He'll be discussing layout paragraphs, so we'll get to Justin in a minute. We had a keynote from Preston So back in July when we typically hold our in-person event at MIT. Preston spoke about voice content. Does your content speak for itself? He's the author of A Book Apart's first book on voice design and voice content. So check out his book or check out the recording of our keynote. The recording link is there on the screen, but you can also go to design4drupal.org, which is where you registered for this event. So design4drupal.org, and you can find links to Preston's recording, as well as links to all of the webinars that we've been doing. As part of Design for Drupal being a Drupal camp, we really encourage Drupal contributions given back to the Drupal community. And there's many ways you can do that, and you definitely do not have to be a coder. You don't have to be able to write PHP code or anything like that. You can contribute to front-end theming, documentation, testing, all kinds of things, accessibility. I put a few channels here on some of the common places that people in the design and front-end community can give back. So there's the admin UI for Claro, the D9 theme for Olivero. So Claro's the new admin theme, Olivero's the new front-end theme, the new Drupal theme. Then there's a couple other initiatives that are good for anybody to join to help give back, and that's the Easy Out of the Box initiative and the Project Browser initiative. So reach out to me if you have any questions on any of those, and I could definitely let you know how to get started in giving back to the Drupal project. And we welcome everybody. Our upcoming webinar series next month, October 20th at noon again. We're going to talk a little bit different. We're talking about the Drupal Layout Builder module and how to take that to the next level. Danny Englander from Bixel will be talking about some of the add-on modules that allow you to expand the Layout Builder module. So that's next month's webinar. So register for that again on designfordrupal.org. We need your help. Design for Drupal is a volunteer organization. We need speakers for the different webinars. We could use help with the website, event coordinator, social media, all kinds of things. So if you're interested at all in helping out and this is another way to give back, please reach out and let us know. And you can reach out to Boston at designfordrupal.org. Community events. So a lot of you are from the international community. A lot are from the North America as well. There is an event coming up. It's the European DrupalCon. It's on October 4th to 7th. And I believe they're having it at 3 different schedules so that you can, well, there's different schedules so that you can, wherever you are, currently residing, there'll be sessions and things that are in your time zone. Also, the local international camps, a lot of them are holding events simultaneously with DrupalCon. So check that out at events.drupal.org/Europe 2021. But that would be a good place to gather more information about Drupal and network with more folks in the Drupal community and beyond. Some other events that I wanted to mention here. Drupal GovCon is a great Drupal event. It's really big. It's usually held down in, I think it's Maryland. But anyway, this year it's October 13th to 15th online. At the same time, Drupal Camp Poland is happening. So check these out. Drupal Camp New York City was going to be in person. They've gone back to online for that due to the recent, Delta variant issues. So they are going to try and have an in-person social event, but that is going to be online for the most part. That's October 28th to 30th. And then one that I'm involved organizing is New England Drupal Camp. That's November 19th. That was going to be in Providence, Rhode Island. Our intention was to have that in person. It's still listed as an in-person event, but we as an organizing team are talking about that and trying to decide what the best, option is at this point in time with the way things are today. Also join the Drupal Association on Drupal.org. That's another way to give back to the Drupal community. There's an events page on Drupal.org/community/events. This is where you can find not only the upcoming Drupal camps globally, but also local meetups. A lot of places aren't meeting in person yet, but a lot of these are virtual online, and these are great takes for you to be able to explore your different interests and see what camps around the world might be talking about things you're interested in. And there's also trainings listed on that page. Code of conduct. We follow the Drupal Code of Conduct. It's on our website in the footer. Please make sure that you make everybody feel welcome, even on these online virtual events. If there are any concerns, and we don't anticipate any, reach out to myself or Patrick with any concerns that you might have. Thanks to our sponsors, Atten Design, Dev Collaborative, Talking Drupal, Acquia, Esteemed, Kalamuna, Evolving Web, Canopy, Pantheon, 108 Degrees, McPhee Design, and Redfin Solutions. For some reason, it's not on here, but they were our gold digital sponsor this year. So thank you to all those that sponsored the event plus these ongoing webinars. So reach out and talk to these sponsors, thank them. Today's event, if you could use the hashtag D4D Boston on social media, that would be great. Spread the word about Justin's webinar and things you've learned, and that would be great. We're going to use the Q&A feature instead of the chat for questions. So if you could start, when Justin starts his talk, if you have any questions at all, put them in the Q&A, and we will go through the questions at the end of the presentation. And I think that's about all for news and notes of the day. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it back over to Patrick, who is going to introduce Justin.
Great. Today's presenter is Justin Tupin. Justin is the CEO and founding partner at Atten. He started the company way back in 2000 with a passion for technology and communications and a desire to do meaningful work, as well as an aspiration to help build a place where people love what they do. Justin speaks publicly on occasion about design and development process, working with clients, and the business of running a design company. He is also the co-maintainer for several Drupal projects, including OpenAid, the Drupal distribution for marketing nonprofit programs. Justin is also one of the maintainers for the layout paragraphs module, which today he will take us through a demo of how it empowers teams to publish rich, beautiful content in Drupal quickly. Justin, welcome.
Thanks, Patrick. Really appreciate being here. Appreciate the introduction. Thanks everybody for joining this presentation. Really excited to share some of this content, which I think is particularly relevant for the Design for Drupal audience. And we'll get into a little bit more, of course, about that here in a second. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm actually going to stop my video and share my screen. Hopefully you guys can see, let's see here. Great, so hopefully you guys can see slides here. And we'll get started. So yeah, again, thanks for being here. Really excited about this. I spend a lot of time talking with clients and working with our team about some of the stuff that we're going to be covering today. So what we're specifically going to be talking about is a Drupal module called Layout Paragraphs, which provides effortless drag and drop publishing for Drupal. Most of this presentation is going to be a live demo. We're going to show a couple of different aspects or a couple of different contexts or environments for layout paragraphs. And I'll get into that here in a minute. Great, so what we'll cover, first I'm going to talk a little bit about layout paragraphs, what it is, why we use it, why we have adopted layout paragraphs into our process. Second, I want to talk a little bit about project status and adoption. So where is the Drupal module right now? What state is it in? How can you get involved? Things like that. Then we'll jump into a live demo using my agency's website, atten.io. Atten.io is the theme for that is pretty heavily customized. So I also want to show what this would look like with a brand new, out of the box, much simpler website without that level of customizations. And then finally, we should have plenty of time to dive into questions. So let's jump in. First, why layout paragraphs? First and foremost, we wanted the ability, and we wanted our clients to have the ability to design and build flexible, highly customized landing pages on their Drupal sites. Second, and a very close follow-up to this, we wanted an easy-to-use, expressive, drag-and-drop content authoring environment, or authoring experience for users, for contributors. Third, we wanted to accomplish this without sacrificing structured content. I mean, one of the huge highlights and kind of selling points for Drupal, from our perspective, is that it provides for structured content, and that it provides a content management experience around structured content. And we didn't want to sacrifice that in the way that we've been concerned about some other systems that provide maybe a similar UI, having to make sacrifices around structured content. We wanted to leverage familiar workflow and configuration with fields, field widgets, and field formatters. So in other words, provide an experience that's very natural and kind of follows the expectations one would have of the Drupal backend. Ideally, we wanted a system that does not require migration, that works just out of the box, again, with other widely used modules, in this case, paragraphs, which is in use by close to, I think, 200,000 installations based on stats from Drupal.org. And finally, the last point here, we wanted to build a system that provides APIs for continuing to push the authoring experience. So not just provide a really great, flexible drag and drop experience out of the box, but we wanted to provide a module or really build the foundation for an ecosystem where we can continue to create those kinds of enhancements and to focus on authoring experience for Drupal. Let's talk a little bit about the status of layout paragraphs, the module. So it is available on Drupal.org and has been for some time now at drupal.org/project/layout_paragraphs. It's just the module page. A couple releases to be aware of. There is a stable production-ready release. So if anybody just wants to grab, something that they can use without concern of things breaking it all, or just have the latest stable release for production website, the 1.0.0 release is great for that. There's also a complete rewrite, which is the 2x branch of the module. And this is really what provides those APIs that I was talking about before for continuing to leverage the experience, as well as some UX and user interface enhancements from the 1x branch. And then just today, we pushed the first beta release for the 2x branch. We'd love to see people help test that out. A couple ways you can do that. One, just installing the latest beta. And as you run into issues, if you run into issues, post those in the issue queue. Even better, help us by writing automated tests. There is a test framework built into the module. So we'd love to see patches for contributed for those tests on D.O. Adoption for this module is growing. We are, as of this week, these are stats published on Drupal.org. We're at roughly 1,700 installations. As you can see, the bulk of these are on the 1x branch. Would love to see greater adoption on the 2x branch, and in particular of the beta release to help us get to stable. And there are roadmaps posted in the issue queue. So if you're interested in seeing kind of where this is going, or what it will take to get to stable, you can see that on the module page. Okay, that's all the background. I'm going to jump over to our website and just demo exactly what it is we're talking about. So this is the Atten Design Group website. I am logged in as an administrator, as you can see from the toolbar across the top. There's some pretty heavy customizations in the theme layer. So the look and feel of this website, of course, is very much customized. But a lot of what we're going to be looking at for layout paragraphs is functionality provided right out of the box. The type of content, well, one type of content on our website that's a great example of the kind of content we wanted to provide with layout paragraphs, and the kind of experience we wanted to provide, is case studies. So I'm just going to basically build a case study. So kind of walk through what it would take to design and build a case study live on our website. So this is a normal Drupal form with very little customization. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, skipping all these fields. One thing I will call out just briefly, layout paragraphs works really well with moderation. So we're seeing here the moderation control where we can bump this through the various states. And layout paragraphs does work really well with content moderation. There's no conflicts there. It works fine. Let's go ahead and save. At this point, this is not published. We land immediately on the View tab once we've saved our content. One new feature in the 2x branch of layout paragraphs is this front-end editor. It's a field formatter. You can just turn it on, and you immediately get this capability to, in the front end, if you're logged in and you have the correct permissions, to start creating content. So we'll click this link to start creating content. Get this message to add our first section. All of this, again, is configurable in the module. As we click through here, what we're really adding, we call these components when we're talking about layout paragraphs, but these are actually paragraph types. So we're looking at, if you're familiar with the paragraphs module and with creating paragraphs, this is a new field widget and also implemented by a field formatter that provides this authoring experience for paragraphs. And this is a section paragraph type with layouts turned on, and I'll show how to do that here in a few minutes. So let's get started with a 1-column section. It immediately drops in place. We could add another above or below, and then we can add content into this one region of our 1-column section. So I'll click on Add Content. Here we have a library of available components, or again, paragraph types. I'm going to get started with the kind of the most custom paragraph type we have for case studies on our site, which is this masthead, which has a title, a subtitle. We can add images. I'll just narrow these results down to the subject that I'm interested in, grab 2 images, hit place. So our 2 images have been attached to this paragraph. Skip all of this for now, hit save, and we immediately see that content dropped in place. This is looking pretty good. We do have, so I'm going to click back into the section, just make a couple little changes here. So this is using a custom layout plugin. Layout plugins work for layout paragraphs. They also work, of course, for Layout Builder in Drupal core. I'm going to change this a little bit and use the light on dark color scheme, and then change the background color. Yeah, and that's looking a little nicer. So great. So we'll keep on going here. I'm just going to add quite a bit of text. So bear with me for just a second here while we add a new section. I'm going to add a simple text area. Paste in some text. Save. Add some more text. We're going to do this for just a little while here. Add a couple more paragraphs in here. One thing you'll notice as I'm adding these paragraphs, so we have these controls over each paragraph, and we can drag them around and reorder them and kind of move them wherever we want to within the layout. We'll just add 2 more sections here, 2 more components rather. Do a bulleted list of key challenges in the project. And I'll add another bulleted list for key solutions in the project. So I'll try to. Great. Okay, so once again, we can move these elements around and kind of reorder them as we like. This was designed specifically for working with really customized layouts while creating content, but it works just as well as a widget or an experience for just creating paragraphs with even outside of the context of layout. One thing you'll notice across the bottom that's also provided by this front-end editor experience or formatter are these save and close buttons. I can hit save, close this, it immediately reloads the page, and we can see exactly what that would look like, which again is very close to the editing experience, which is what we were going for. Let me go back in here and kind of reorganize this content a little bit. So we can add a new section, make it a 2-column section, and you can start seeing some of the power of this or the capability of this module as we move this content around and reorganize it right here in the editing experience. So that looks a lot nicer. We'd add another section also for this key challenges area. Oops. Let's see here. So we'll add another 1 column. I'll give this one a slightly different background color just to make that stand out a little bit. Move our key challenges into this section. This also supports, of course, paragraph behaviors, if you're familiar with paragraphs at all, and the behavior system within that. So these formatting options are being provided by a custom paragraph behavior. I'm going to just go into this list styles, click save, and again, you can see that immediately reflected in the UI. We'll do the same thing with this one. Change this to horizontal list, hit save. I'm going to change the background color for this one as well. You can start to get a sense for this really dynamic kind of what you see is what you get, or close to what you see is what you get experience. Really responsive, able to easily kind of design and build more complex content. And just show here, we'll add some images or add a image as well as some text. Great, that's looking pretty good. We have also the ability, we have these buttons for moving sections up and down, so you can easily move sections up and down, but you can drag them as well. So sometimes it's a little bit easier to click these up and down arrows than it is to drag, especially if you're talking about kind of moving through big areas of screen real estate. I'm gonna add a 3-column layout now. We're gonna do something, we'll put a slideshow in this one. So let's go with a dark green background. Again, that light on dark color scheme. You can see, it's a little harder to see the outlines here, but you can see the outlines for the regions. Add some text in the center one as a description for this section. And then down in this kind of footer region for the section, we'll add a slideshow. Again, we'll filter down to just the images about the Raleigh project. Select a handful of images, hit place. They've been placed. Save our paragraph, and you can see those immediately reflected again in the UI. And you can even interact with this since it attaches all of the front end scripts and everything to the experience. Getting pretty close here to the end. Just add another section with some text and one more image. One thing you'll notice is I'm adding sections, and I'll get back to this in just a second, but we have one option in our custom layout plugin is to say which order columns should be given priority in. And that helps to configure how columns collapse for mobile. And I'll show exactly what I mean by that here in a minute when we add the next section. Let's go and add this image, place, and save. Again, all of this, if we wanted to, we can move all of this around. And it can be moved interchangeably too. So this can be moved from the bottom section up into another section, etc. No limitations on that. If for some reason you had two of these fields on a single page, which is possible, you would not be able to drag a piece of content from one layout paragraphs field into an entirely other layout paragraphs field. It is limited to this field alone. That's by design. Otherwise, things would get pretty crazy. Okay, getting close to the end. Just going to show a couple more features here. Again, we see the stacking order here. This just says, should the left column stack above or should the right column stack above when the page is shrunk down to mobile? Again, just a custom option that's available in this custom layout plugin. And again, any layout plugins, there's integration between layout paragraphs and any layout plugins that you might have installed on your site. Down the left-hand side here, we see options for all of the different regions within a section. So I'm going to actually change for primary. We'll go to light on dark, change the background color. And this will be just for one region within this section. So you can see that region has that background color. We'll add some text on the right. Save. Add a slightly different component type on the left with a quote. And give this quote an attribution, as well as a title. And save. And you can see how get a sense for how that's working and how that might work with different paragraph types. Now, these are just the paragraphs that we have installed on our website or that we have configured on our website. Layout paragraphs, the whole idea is that it would work with whatever paragraph types you have installed on your website. So if you install layout paragraphs right out of the box and you're already using paragraphs on your website, all of the paragraph types that are installed or configured on your website will be available in this experience. And I'll show in a minute when we get through with this kind of demo portion, I'll talk through exactly how that works, how to configure the module, what you can expect out of the box, and things along those lines. Great, getting pretty close to the end here. We'll add one more paragraph on this side, text again. This time we'll change the format of this just slightly. So we'll drop the text in, give this the special padding attribute, choose the white background color. See how that works. There we go. Great. Okay, cool. And then just one more section and we'll wrap up this portion of the demo. So I'll add one more 2-column section. We'll give this one a dark background. And then we'll also give it a background image. And we'll choose, once again, that light on dark color scheme. Wait for that to upload. I'm also going to go into the primary region and change the background color for primary, but we'll turn that down just a little bit. Turn the opacity down. There we go. Great. And then inject some text over here on the left-hand side. That's looking pretty good, but that text really needs a little bit of padding. So we'll go back in, add that padded attribution, hit save. And that's looking much better. All right. At any time, I can hit save. Again, the page or this field, this is really a field we're looking at. The field on the page is reloaded with Ajax. We can see, again, what we end with is really close to what we're seeing in the editing experience. That's about it as far as the demo on our website goes. As you can see, Layout Paragraphs provides this really interactive, easy to use drag and drop experience for working with content on a Drupal site, and simply requires the Layout Paragraphs module, as well as the Paragraphs module, of course, and then some paragraph types. And we'll take a look at that in more detail next with a demo of a more vanilla, kind of a basic website right out of the box. Very few custom modules installed, absolutely no customization of the theme. This is just using Bardic for the theme. We'll take a look at how this works out of the box. So I should note that on this website, this demo website, I think the only two modules that were installed, the two contrib modules, were one, Layout Paragraphs, which also has a dependency on Paragraphs. So it also installs Paragraphs and any of the modules required by Paragraphs. So Layout Paragraphs was installed, and also a module called Stories, which is a very simple contributed module that provides a library of paragraph types. So those are the two modules that were installed on this website, and everything else is out of the box. So let's take a look. We'll just add some new content to get started. Again, what we're looking at is probably familiar to all of you, assuming most of the folks here have experience with the Drupal editing interface. We have a normal kind of Drupal authoring experience, authoring form. And then this is that new field from the Layout Paragraphs field that looks very similar to what we were looking at on the Atten website, with the ability to get started by adding a section. Now, there are configuration options where you can require or not require that content has to be added within a section. If you say it must be added within a section, then the only option we would see here is to add a section. And if it doesn't, we'll see that in a second. Let's save this, though, without adding any new content, and then we'll see again this front-end editor experience that we looked at on the Atten website. Really just wanted to show what that looks like on a fresh install of Drupal. Again, we still get that really easy to use front-end editor experience. If I click Start Creating Content, immediately have this kind of editing Chrome and the ability to create new components. In this context, this has been configured to not require sections. So we can actually create any paragraph we want. We're not limited to section. So we could add a text item. And then follow that with a section, which in turn has columns, and then inject whatever we want to into that section. Including whatever paragraph types we have installed. So here I'll just add a new image really quick. You can see some of the options here are a little bit different than what we were seeing on the Atten website, just showing that this works in a variety of contexts. Great. I can hit save, close out of this editor, go to the Edit tab, And we have the ability to edit this from within the Edit tab as well. Again, just showing what this looks like, both from the back-end kind of edit capability or edit form for Drupal, as well as the front-end editor. Okay, let's take a look at some of the configuration behind this module. So as I mentioned before, the only modules that have been installed, the only extra modules that have been installed onto this website are layout paragraphs and then stories, which provides different paragraph types. Layout paragraphs has a few different configuration options. You can choose whether or not to show the paragraph labels, whether or not to show the layout labels, so what kind of layout it is in the editing experience. This is the field set label for paragraph behaviors, if you have any behaviors turned on for paragraphs. And you can also configure where that form should be placed on the paragraph edit form. There's some options for sections. This is where you would choose what paragraph type you want to use as a layout section for layout paragraphs. So in this case, we have a single paragraph type called section that we're using as the layout section, or kind of the layout container for layout paragraphs. Once you choose a paragraph type, you can choose what layout types you want to be available in the editor. So this is where we've said we want to support 1 column, 2 column. We're not going to support 2 column bricks, 3 column, both these 3 column options. And that's where we've configured all of that right here. It's worth noting that those are also options on the paragraph configuration pages, and I'll show those in a minute as well. The third tab for the layout paragraphs configuration screen is for changing some of the modal properties. You can set the modal width, the height, and as well as whether or not you want the modal to auto resize. And the screen is resized. So that's all the configurations that are specific to layout paragraphs. Outside of that, layout paragraphs uses and entirely relies on the field system in Drupal. So we'll take a look at what that looks like by going to content types, go to manage fields on the basic page. This is an entity so we have a single field, the content field, which is a entity reference revisions field, which is the type of field used for paragraphs. It's a paragraph reference field. We edit this field, we can see that we have enabled all of our paragraph types to be available. If we go back to the basic page, go to manage form display, to get the layout paragraphs experience in the backend, you simply need to choose layout paragraphs as the field widget. Once you choose layout paragraphs, you have a number of options, number of configuration options over on the right. You could create a separate view mode for paragraphs if you wanted to, that was used in the backend rendering experience or the backend authoring experience. You can choose to support nesting sections within sections up to 10 levels deep. You can choose whether or not your users must enter paragraphs inside of a layout, or if they can just enter paragraphs outside of a layout, kind of at that root level as well. And then you can create a placeholder message that shows up when no content's been created. And those are the different options. If we go over to the Manage Display tab, to correctly render layout paragraphs in the front end, you will have to choose either the layout paragraphs formatter or the layout paragraphs builder formatter. The builder is what provides that front end builder experience that we've been looking at for most of this demo today. If you choose the builder experience, you have the same options that are provided by the widget. And it's worth noting that these options are managed separately from the widget. So you can provide different options on the front end editor than the back end editor. You have flexibility to manage those separately. And again, we'll just take a quick look at what those are. And that's really it. Once you have configured your paragraph reference field to use layout paragraphs, you're ready to get started. Again, you can go back into add content, and layout paragraphs will be available for your editors. All right, that's just about all I have for you all today. Let's just switch back here. Yeah, so great. So thanks again, everybody. Really excited about this content, excited about the capabilities of layout paragraphs and kind of what it can do. Would love to answer any questions. If you want to learn more, you can check out this landing page on our website, atten.io/AX, which just talks a little bit more about authoring experience. Again, would love to see folks head over to the project page on Drupal.org, download the beta version, let us know about any issues. And then, finally, if you have any questions, happy to answer questions directly. If you have questions even beyond this presentation, feel free to shoot me an email at justin@atten.io. So thanks, everybody. And I think with that, we'd love to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Justin, rather than telling you how awesome that presentation was, I think that's reflected in the number of questions we have. So I'm just going to jump right into them so we have time to answer all of them. There are a couple of duplicates, and I think I'll just start off, and I think this will answer a few of them. Can you go over the general difference for people who have been using Layout Builder or have been using paragraphs or have been using paragraphs and Layout Builder, what the difference is between that and layout paragraphs?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Patrick. So that's a great question. We get this question all the time, and it kind of goes to the heart of why we even set out to build this, to build layout paragraphs, and why there was a need for something like this. So from our perspective, in our experience, Layout Builder is a really incredible site building tool and just a fantastic experience for site builders and for laying out, for creating layouts for entire websites and for placing blocks across a website, placing dynamic blocks of a website, for saying, okay, here's our sidebar with our sidebar content that's going to be managed separately from the content region, et cetera, again, across an entire website or across sections of the website. And in that sense, from our perspective, Layout Builder is really a site builder tool. What we wanted was an authoring tool, something that provides this very flexible, very dynamic, what we describe as expressive, really easy to use, drag and drop authoring. So for someone who wants to create, marketing landing pages or even blog posts that need, even more like article or blog post content that just needs more flexibility. That's really why we created Layout Paragraphs as an authoring tool for users.
Great, thank you. Johanna has a question. Is there any work required to migrate a site from the 1x to the 2x version?
Great question, and fortunately, really easy one. There's not. You can just install the 2x. Clear cache, which is kind of the thing always in Drupal, but I don't even know if that's necessary. I will just point out that the 1x version has a stable release, and the 2x at this point is still in beta. So I would just kind of treat that appropriately. So it's working great, really happy with the progress that's been made on the 2x branch. It is officially in beta.
Got it. Someone else asked, is there a plan to get security coverage?
Yes, I believe there already is security coverage. If you just go to the module page and check out the security coverage policy for the module, that should already be there.
Yep, great. Check. Janet has a question. I'm a Drupal 7 site builder. Does a plugin equal a module? I think you mentioned the plugins as far as the paragraphs field plugin is concerned.
Yeah, great question. Not necessarily. So when I'm talking about plugins, specifically talking about layout plugins, so plugins are basically a PHP class, or they're kind of a wrapped component of functionality in PHP that much of Drupal relies on. So you may have, most modules or many modules will have plugins within the architecture, within the module itself. There are a variety of layout plugins available that are available in various modules. And one example is just the layout builder module out of the box uses the default layout plugin. You can read a little bit more, you can read more about that if you go to Drupal.org and just do a quick search for layout builder. There's kind of a tutorial that walks through layout builder, how it works with layout plugins, et cetera. But they're not quite the same. A plugin it means something very specific from a development perspective. It's kind of a piece of code. It's wrapped in a class, in a PHP class.
Danny asked something similar, just kind of piggybacking whether there's a specific Drupal API that you use for that. For the layout plugin, the custom layout plugin.
Yeah, great question. Yes, the layout API is what's being used for that. Again, there's some really good information on Drupal.org about that. If you just do a quick search for, working with layout builder in Drupal. Yeah, and then actually some of the stuff that I was walking through today, there's a dev release for a module that provides some of this. Happy to follow up with details on that. And we should soon get to an alpha on that as well, but that provides some of these kind of the customizations that you can see on the layout. This will be available in a contributor module very soon.
Sean has a question. Has the drag and drop interface been tested for accessibility, or are there keyboard shortcuts?
So another great question, and the short answer is yes. We have tested, just very simply though, with tab controls. The 1X version actually has the capability as you tab through to move content around with the arrow keys. On the 2X version, we have not yet ported arrow key support. You can move sections up and down. You can tab, and you can even see right here's the focus state on this button. So there are focus states for everything as we navigate through here. So you can interact with the layouts or layout paragraphs with the keyboard. The next step for this is to enable that arrow key navigation of all the components that you can use and move everything around the entire page.
Great. Someone asked, does this work with paragraphs, with the paragraphs library for you reusing components?
Not yet. There's an issue in the issue queue for that, and that is absolutely on the agenda.
Ruth asks, are you able to limit background colors that content editors are able to choose?
We are. So the background color piece of this is provided by a separate module. There are lots of ways you could set this up. So any way that you might provide formatting for paragraphs in the past, there's a background color field actually in Drupal that you could attach to a paragraph. There's lots of ways you could handle that. And the implementation that we're using, we have limited that to this palette over here on the left. And we have complete control over that just through the module that's providing that.
Gotcha. So it's a separate module, not the layout paragraphs module.
Yep. Yeah, it is. And everything that's inside this layout options area is actually provided by a separate option or a separate module. It's provided by a plugin that is a part of a separate module.
Gotcha. Azim has a question. Can we display dynamic content with layout paragraphs, like content types or views?
Sure. So there are a number of paragraph types, and it's really field reference types in Drupal that allow you to reference dynamic content. So one example of that would be the views reference field that allows you to target a view from a field. And that's a great way to show dynamic content, and something we actually use quite a bit. Might even be in that library of paragraphs that I was showing a second ago. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
But yeah, anything you can render. Because this works specifically with paragraphs, anything you could inject into a paragraph, which would typically be by fields, would be supported by layout paragraphs.
One quick question, just kind of following up on that. So I was really impressed by how what you see is what you get, how close that is. Is that thanks to the layout paragraphs module? Like, are you doing a lot of rendering in that module, or are you leveraging some kind of other module or Drupal functionality to do that?
Yeah, it's really all just coming from that module. And the way it works is by rendering the paragraphs and then injecting this kind of editor Chrome around the paragraphs. So, really, as long as you're following sort of best practice guidelines for theming and outputting variables correctly in your templates, anything you design, once you turn on layout paragraphs, anything you've designed related to paragraphs and themed related to paragraphs, it should just add these controls on top of it.
That's great. Let's see, we've got 18 more questions. I'll try to get through them here. Advantages and disadvantages of using this module versus layout builder core. Like, what are maybe some good use cases for one or the other?
Yeah, great question. And again, we use Layout Builder primarily as a site building tool. So if we're creating, templates that need to work across entire content types or across the entire website or entire sections of a website, that's something that we would use Layout Builder for. Layout paragraphs we use to enable authors to just create rich dynamic content. And so it's all about content.
Gotcha.
Now, we often use both simultaneously. So we'll use Layout Builder to kind of create, for example, the template of what an article page should look like. And we have, down the right-hand side, we have all this dynamic content, we have a footer, we have a header, and that's all injected with Layout Builder. But the content area, how end users, how authors actually create content within the article, we often use layout paragraphs just for that piece. And again, to provide that really easy to use, flexible, what you see is what you get, drag and drop, and all the stuff we've been looking at.
Gotcha. Is it safe to say, like, it's a good way, like, if you have like a landing page that you really want a lot of control over, or like what you have here, a case study versus like a news content type that you're just filling in kind of the content and hitting save? Like, is that kind of a fair example?
Definitely. Although even on a news content type, on the body field or the, whatever you're naming the body or the main content field, we often use layout paragraphs for that, so that end users can easily intermix, a heading paragraph followed by some body copy, followed by an image, followed by some more copy, maybe a podcast injected, etc. It just provides a little bit more flexibility and still maintains this very structured approach to storage for content. It's a little easier to migrate in the future, etc. Than if you were just dumping everything into a WYSIWYG field.
Sure. Let's see, another question that came in. Nested paragraphs tend to create lots of unnecessary paragraph revisions that can bloat the database. Does the layout paragraphs module address this problem?
Yeah, awesome question. It does. And the way it does this is it relies on a single reference field. So there really are no nested paragraph references. If we look at our paragraph types, we have this section paragraph type, but the section paragraph type does not have a reference field to the paragraphs within it. That's all handled by layout paragraphs. So we tell layout paragraphs, hey, we want to use section as a layout container, and it handles the rest. And it uses, under the hood, it's using paragraphs behavior storage to just store what that structure should be for all of the nested paragraphs. But while it achieves this very kind of complex nested look, the actual structure is very simple. All of the paragraphs on this page, the section, each paragraph within it, etc., are simply a part of that one reference field referenced by the node.
Gotcha.
And that was a huge reason that we wanted to do this as well. I mean, one thing that was just kind of a nightmare in the past is you'd have to have, to do something like this, you'd have to have 3 levels deep of paragraphs. And then as a content editor, you'd have to remember kind of what was at the main level, what's at the inside level. If you want to move something, you have to delete it, start over, etc. So in any event, yes, it's a much simpler, single flat reference field.
Gotcha. Someone asked, can you disable the front end editor? If you have the front end editor enabled, is there a way to view the content without it?
Yes. So two things. One, when it's enabled, the only thing that is injected is this edit button. So this has that front end editor. The only difference between this page and what it would look like without it is this edit content. And this is just the name of the field. The name of our field is content. So it says edit content. Second, on the content type, absolutely, it's just a configuration option. So if I go back into case study and manage display, if I were to change this builder to just layout paragraphs, we wouldn't even see that edit button. It would just render the page as we were just looking at.
Got it.
Which I'm not going to do on the slide side.
Sarah has a question, and we're about 3 minutes left, so we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon, but there are a bunch more questions. This is awesome. What we'll do is we'll figure out a way to get these questions answered and sent out to those who attended the conference today. So I'll get through as many as I can here in the next couple of minutes. Sarah asks, can layout paragraphs handle content translation?
Yes, it can. And actually, it handles both symmetric and asymmetric, synchronous and asynchronous content translations. But we'd love to see more testing of that from end users. It has been tested. There are closed issues in the issue queue related to that, but we'd love to see more testing of that.
Great. Thomas asks, actually, we've already answered this. The difference between layout builder and layout paragraphs, except paddings and color selection. So I think we've kind of answered that. Matt, wondering about the admin theme requirements or recommendations. I had a question about that too, whether there's a special admin theme you're using, especially on the admin site or not.
So on the admin site, on this edit content tab, which I didn't even show, but this edit content tab is it's the edit form, but it's just showing this one field. It's like just a customized edit form. We're using the same front end and back end theme. So yeah, I mean, in this case, yes, the back end has been customized to look like the front end. Or rather, it's using the same theme. But the nice thing about that front end editor is it works with whatever front end theme you have. And then as I was showing on the demo site, no, you don't have to, you really don't have to have any customizations in the admin. It'll work right out of the box.
Great. I think we're going to stop there. Leslie has some closing comments. So I will turn it over to Leslie, and thank you, Justin. That was an excellent presentation. And like I said, we will get these questions answered for everybody, and I will turn it now over to Leslie.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Justin. That was a great presentation, really informative. We are going to, we have recorded this. We will add the recording to the Design for Drupal website on the webinars page. So for folks who want to, go check anything out, and we can also put a link there to the questions that we didn't get to and the answers as well. So again, thank you, Justin. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you for everybody from all over the globe that attended. It was really good to see everybody, and we hope to see you at our subsequent webinars. So go to the webinars page on design4drupal.org and register there. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. See you next month.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Justin.